Good morning and welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. As this is the road to 47, we're just about a month away from Inauguration Day. Of course, the Trump-Vance Inaugural Committee working behind the scenes to get this to be a great day on January 20th, 2025. Looking forward to that. 32 days until this great day. We'll have a lot of coverage right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. My name is Matthew Alvarez. Thanks so much for streaming in live right now as we're taking a look at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. A lot of news to get to, a lot of interviews to get to. But first, why don't we do this? Let's start this morning with the Trump on Truth segment. President Trump just this morning saying, "Make America great again," in all caps. He also said, "Everybody wants to be my friend." He also said this last night, saying in part, quote, "Republicans must get smart and tough," talking about this massive spending bill. If Democrats threaten to shut down the government unless we give them everything they want, then call their bluff. It is Schumer and Biden who are holding up aid to our farmers and disaster relief. This chaos would not be happening if we had a real president. We will in 32 days. Basically, three words there: drain the swamp. All right, let's pivot now to our We the People segment. I recently sat down with John Strand, a J6 political prisoner who is now a free man. Take a look. Now is John Strand. Thank you so much for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Matthew, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Definitely. So there are a number of titles within your resume that you have. You're an artist, you're an American activist, you're an author. You work at America's Frontline Doctors as the creative director with Dr. Simone Gold, but also within that whole framework, J6 political prisoner. Can you believe even that's part of your history now?
I never could have predicted that, of course. The truth is definitely stranger than fiction.
Yeah, I mean, it's just wild. Tell us about J6. What happened there from your eyes?
You know, it's interesting to have this conversation today. There was a bombshell report just hours ago from Congressman Barry Loudermilk, who is the chairman of the subcommittee for the House Oversight Committee, investigating what is now confirmed as a Fedsurrection. And of course, I was mocked for saying that. Congressman Matt Gaetz, who's been staunch on this issue from day one, was mocked for saying it, but it's true. So Barry Loudermilk's report makes clear that Liz Cheney and Adam Schiff on the Select Committee committed criminal felony offenses, deleting evidence and tampering with a witness. The irony of ironies is that, rewinding to my story in January 6th, I was wrongly charged and wrongfully imprisoned for 3 years, primarily because of a specific 20-year felony statute called 1512, which is titled tampering with a witness, evidence, or informant. And that's literally the law that Liz Cheney and her committee friends have broken. So that report just came out on the heels of the Inspector General report investigating the January 6th event, which confirmed, yes, the government's hands are dirty. They had FBI operatives in the crowd and in the building, and their FBI operatives committed the same allegedly criminal acts that January 6th protesters committed, a la walking through the building. Suddenly that's a crime. But the point is that, as Thomas Massie so nicely summarized for us this week, if you were an FBI insurrectionist, you got a paycheck. If you were a MAGA insurrectionist, you got thrown in prison. So it's just shocking to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of information that still has been coming out since January 6th, that date, just unbelievable. I mean, the fact that President Trump now will be the 47th commander-in-chief, and he is looking to pardon many people within the J6 political prisoner community, if you will, especially nonviolent ones like yourself. Man, what was that like? 3 years behind bars for basically something that you simply have a right to, freedom of speech and expression. And you spent a lot of time behind bars. What was that like for you, man?
Man, it was absolutely horrific. I won't mince words. I won't really even try right now to get into the frame of mind and the amount of anguish and pain. But just to quickly give a teaser to what I'm talking about, Amnesty International, Geneva Convention, these groups classify more than 14 consecutive days of solitary confinement as torture. I was totally illegally abused and held in super isolation, meaning isolated from all contact with any of my family or attorneys, totally illegal, not for 14 days, but for 4 months. That level of abuse commonly leads to suicides and death from despair. It's horrific. So it's hard for me to even explain how bad that was. But what I will do is encourage people to read the book that I wrote while I was in prison. It's called Patriot Plea. You can pre-order it right now at johnstrand.com. And I really encourage people to do that and to share it, not just to expose the specific story of January 6th, but the book is incredibly powerful and illuminating as to what's gone wrong in our country and in our culture that's led us to this place where we've lost our moorings and our government has gone completely off the rails and has been weaponized against innocent American citizens that should be protected by the First Amendment and the entire Bill of Rights.
Exactly. The Patriot Plea book, the foreword by Eric Metaxas, the after foreword by Dr. Simone Gold. John, can you tell us what was it, though, when you were in that moment for those 4 months? What was how did you have the strength, the courage? Was it spirituality? Was it faith? Was it your grittiness, your hope? What was it?
It's a great question, Matthew. Thank you for asking. And, God absolutely did create me and instill in me a unique sense of grit, as you said, and strength. However, it is absolutely the truth, and I must give acknowledgement of God's grace and protection. It is only by his divine intervention and his supernatural power that my mind was protected and kept whole during that isolation abuse. It was torturous, and I truly mean that. I felt like I was losing my mind. I was attacked by demons of despair and depression and hopelessness. There are other J6ers. Matthew Perna is one who lost his life tragically because of despair as a result of the lies and fraudulence and coercion of a weaponized and corrupted government. So I give praise to God and my faith in my Savior, Jesus Christ, who absolutely is the reason that I can think straight and that I can surrender myself to his will to be used as he would direct me. And I absolutely saw this situation as a deployment behind enemy lines in service of my country as a political hostage. And I was thrown in prison for 3 years. I served 1 full year and then was released because I refused to take the plea deal, because the J6 plea deals are a lie, all of them. And I refused to accept that plea and instead maintained my innocence and went to trial, knowing that I would be convicted in a totally corrupt and rigged DC court system, but praying and trusting in God's providence that he had a plan to redeem me. And I was vindicated with a victory at the United States Supreme Court on June 28th, 2024, and was then released. And now I continue fighting and advocating for all J6ers who need to be pardoned and exonerated, released because of broad, sweeping constitutional violations that affected all of them.
When President Trump at various rallies would stand on stage and would salute and play the J6 choir singing the national anthem and doing the Pledge of Allegiance, did you see or hear any wind of that happening? And if you did, or if anybody else did, what was the reaction from that?
Matthew, that song is so powerful. And what I actually did was, after my trial, so I was then convicted by the DC court, and leading up to my sentencing, where a deranged judge went off the rails and gave me 3 years, and out of his own mouth, he said it's because he was offended that I was doing media interviews exposing the fraud of J6 and the corruption of DC courts. So he admitted he was putting me in prison for the crime of criticizing the government, which is the textbook definition of fascism. But while I was in DC for that period, I went to Freedom Corner outside the DC Gulag, where incredibly there has been citizen-led prayer vigils every night since J6 happened, 4 years running now. Every night at 8 p.m., a roll call given with every name of J6 defendants held as political hostages, and summarizing at 9 p.m. Eastern with the singing of the national anthem. So in DC, I heard the J6 political hostages inside the DC gulag singing the national anthem. I sang it with them. And while I was inside of prison myself as a political hostage, I actually sang the national anthem every night at 9 p.m. out loud in the prison dorm. And the inmates, even those who were not J6ers, all understood the incredible significance of that tribute. And it was very powerful. And I was just very blessed by that. And the song is a really incredible part of our American history now.
It is. It definitely is. And, you know, Tucker Carlson's reporting on Jacob Chansley. Remember when they showed video of him just being ushered around the Capitol? I mean,
Yeah.
there were many people that were saying they didn't want Tucker to play that video. But thanks be to God, Tucker Carlson, a true journalist, a true conservative American, shared that video. Did you see that video or hear about how wide open it really was for Jacob as he got toured around the Capitol there? And then what was your thought at that point?
So if I'm not mistaken on the timeline, I saw that footage before I was put in prison, because this has been a 4-year journey. And I think it was around 2022 when that footage from Tucker was released. So we'd already been fighting the lie of J6 for several years, and Tucker's footage confirmed clearly beyond a shadow of a doubt that there was significant elements of entrapment, police involvement. So in some instances, the police attacked unarmed protesters and clearly instigated conflict that turned into violence that should never have happened. In other instances, cops clearly were calmly chaperoning protesters through the building, which of course is completely confusing and totally nullifies their argument that it was a restricted area and we should have known that. That's a bogus argument really on its face, but they further invalidated that by opening doors and shepherding people in. So there's many different pieces of footage that clearly indicate the government at various levels was involved either nefariously or simply through incompetence and dereliction of their duty. But regardless, the government was the real criminal on J6 and absolutely entrapped a large body of innocent citizens. And I just want to quickly highlight a note. You mentioned a nonviolent J6er like myself. Now, absolutely, I'm nonviolent. My entire conduct is captured on video at johnstrand.com. You can watch the 14-minute video. There's more than like 10 or 15 million views of it already. That shows every step I took. So you can see everything I did. It's clear I did nothing except my job, which was to chaperone a scheduled speaker. But there are many J6ers who are in prison right now with charges of violence and assaulting police officers. And people need to understand the vast majority of them are innocent. The vast majority of those allegations of assault are fraudulent, that they are either flat out lies or clearly deceptive manipulations of what happened. And violence that did actually occur, by and large, was instigated first by the police attacking unarmed protesters. So it's very important we don't get confused about, oh, we're going to pardon the nonviolent J6ers, but the ones with assault charges need to stay in prison for hitting a police officer. That's a total lie. It must be completely investigated how the DOJ misrepresented that and lied. And because of broad sweeping constitutional violations that affect everyone, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and all J6ers must be pardoned and released from detainment immediately.
If you're just joining us right now here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, this is John Strand. He's an artist. He's an American activist, an author, a J6 political prisoner. And you said you were behind bars for 3 years. How many days were you behind bars? Did you count?
So I was sentenced to almost 3 years in total, and I served exactly a year, 366 days before being released after I was vindicated at the United States Supreme Court.
Awesome. What were your thoughts on November 5th, 2024, when Donald J. Trump won the White House?
I was ecstatic as everyone else, and I felt such a sense of mercy and just God's providence and his promise. A verse that I prayed every night in the prison when I sang the national anthem was 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people who are called by my name will turn and seek my face and pray and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sins and I will heal their land. And November 5th was not the end, it was the start. It was It was the moment that we reclaimed our republic to allow our citizens, all of us, all Americans, to revive true patriotism, to restore the republic as a government of, by, and for the people, and an opportunity for all of us to re-educate ourselves and reinvest in our citizenship duty to participate in this process in a variety of ways. But it definitely begins with voting, becoming educated on the issues, staying connected to our elected representatives who are supposed to be our voice, and pressuring them appropriately to reflect our will so that we have the country that we want to live in, and our children will have a country and liberty preserved for them.
John, before I let you go, how has your time, 366 days as a political prisoner, changed you for the good, for the future of your entire life?
Man, that's such a great question, Matthew. And that time is irreplaceable. It was a very unique hardship, but God promises us that the hard times and the suffering that he allows us to experience, he always has a plan and a purpose for us. He always has grace and strength sufficient. So through Christ, we can overcome all things. And because of that promise and that faith, God preserved me through that period. And so he has further strengthened me to commit to the battle, because like I said, the battle is just beginning. I'm so excited to be a part of what I like to call a red pill revolution, reigniting patriotism in the millennial generation. And God's given me strength and experience to draw on as I continue that effort. And I hope to raise up a remnant of many other patriots who are ready to get back into the fight and restore liberty and justice for all in this country as one nation under God.
Amen. And President Trump said peacefully and patriotically. You went there peacefully and patriotically. You did nothing violent to anybody, right?
That's absolutely correct. And like I said, the vast majority of people there were also completely peaceful and innocent. Even those who got caught up in scuffles, it wasn't their fault, so they should not be criminally held liable for that. But the vast majority of people did nothing wrong except exercise their First Amendment. That's what they did. And they were betrayed by a weaponized government, and that can never happen again. We also need to have strong calls for significant restitution. Most of these people's lives have been permanently destroyed, Matthew. I'm blessed more than most because of the support system I have and the platform that I have. But most of these folks are anonymous. They don't have support systems. They don't have financial resources. Their lives have been destroyed, homes, futures decimated, their reputations shredded. No one wants to talk to them, give them a job. As many of these people have suffered loss of life, whether it's people dying through suicide and despair. There were miscarriages because of these violent FBI raids that were a total disgusting, vile abuse of government power, straight up Nazi-esque tactics used against innocent American citizens. This can never happen again. So these people need to be restored and made whole with serious reparations, and the government needs to be taught a serious lesson that they can never violate the Constitution and abuse people's rights with weaponized government power like this, or they'll continue to do it, and it will get worse.
Where could people find you, John?
Easy to find, johnstrand.com, JOHNSTRAND, and of course, all the time on X, Twitter, at John Strand USA.
John Strand, thank you so much for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. We're with you. Thank you so much, sir.
God bless you, and thank you for having me. God bless the United States of America.
Amen. Quite the interview there with John Strand, and of course, President Trump appointing Kash Patel to head up the FBI and Pam Bondi to be the head of the DOJ there as the Attorney General of the United States. As you take a look at that inauguration seal, let's go over what it's going to be like on January 20th. We have some details here, as this is episode 6 of The Road to 47. The swearing-in ceremony and speech outside the U.S. Capitol will take place at noon Eastern Time. At that point, the President-elect and Vice President-elect will take the oath of office at the U.S. Capitol, located, of course, at the east end of the National Mall. From there, it's on to the President's room for a signing ceremony. After that, there is an inaugural luncheon at Statuary Hall. Then the review of the troops, along with the presidential parade and reception. The night will include with a number of inaugural balls, of course, President Trump to attend a few of those, and the First Lady as well. So again, just about a month away as we, the people, celebrate a common sense people's candidate, now nominee to a candidate, same difference, now to the 47th commander-in-chief position here in the United States. Meantime, let's pivot over to New York City. The New York Young Republicans Club, of course, held a great event this past Sunday. Steve Bannon, Dan Scavino, Corin Lewandowski spoke, as did Nigel Farage, the leader of the UK Reform Party over there, aka MAGA, right? It's pretty similar to what MAGA is about, the Reform UK Party with Nigel Farage. He had some pretty awesome things to say about our incoming Commander-in-Chief.
Say tonight that in a world that moves at 100 miles an hour, a world with 24/7 media, a world with social media, I get the excitement, the energy, the buzz that this landslide victory has given, and yet I wonder whether you, his biggest supporters, have actually taken time to really take stock of what this achievement's all about. This guy, and I know what it's like being in the front line. I know what it's like to be demonized by the media. I know what it's like to be physically attacked. I know what it's like to live with that fear. This man is without doubt the bravest man I've ever met, the noblest man I've ever met, the most principled man I've ever met. You should feel honored that this man is about to become your 47th president. Honored, thrilled.
Man, I wish Nigel Farage had U.S. citizenship. I wish he was born here. Anyway, so a great speech there in New York City the other night. So, as you know, there are tens of millions of great patriots across our country, more than 100 million. How about all of us? Why not, right? I mean, we the people, it's what we were founded on in this country. From everyday Americans to some of the conservative superstars that we'll be hearing from AmFest starting tonight. We'll have coverage right here on Right Side all the way through Sunday. President Trump will be speaking there as well on Sunday. Bobby McNeely will be in studio with me to bring you that coverage, but we'll get to that in just a minute. But one of those superstars that I'm referring to, generally speaking, is a man that is well respected by a lot of people. Here's Dr. Ben Carson. I guess right now is Dr. Ben Carson. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Absolutely a pleasure to be with you. Thanks.
I know it's been more than a month since President Trump won the White House, but I just wanted to get your fresh reaction here in December. What are your thoughts right now moving forward when it comes to the fact that he won this great election?
Well, certainly very proud of him, but I'll tell you, I'm really proud of the people of our country. They had the most severe gaslighting campaign ever thrown at them, and they were able to see through it. And they were able to recognize that lawfare is not consistent with the values and principles of our country. They recognize that you need leadership on the world stage. And you see how quickly things seem to be changing around the world now that we have some leadership at the helm. They want to have a place where you can freely walk down the street and not worry about some criminal activity. They want a place where you can earn, a comfortable living without having inflation eating up everything that you make. There's so many things that went wrong in the last 4 years, and you can see how quickly things can change.
And that's what we're looking forward to, that golden age under President Trump. And Elon Musk recently said the people have voted for major government reform. Do you agree with that?
Oh, without question. Our founders were very brilliant people. They studied all the governments that existed in the history of the world. And they noticed that there was one thing that they all had in common. They all moved in the same direction: growth, infiltration, and domination. It's not that they're bad. It's just that that's the natural tendency. People want to control everything. They want to control everybody. And they wanted to give us a constitution that would keep that from happening. And they worked very hard to do that. And the last constitutional convention everybody almost said, "The heck with it," and went home. But Benjamin Franklin, the elder statesman, got up and said, "Gentlemen, stop. Let's get down on our knees and let's seek wisdom from God." And they knelt and prayed, and they got up and they put together our Constitution. But Franklin was asked when he came out of the building, "Sir, what do we have here? A monarchy or a republic?" And he said, "A republic if you can keep it." That means they knew it was going to come to this point, because all places do come to this point. But they built in a safeguard, and that safeguard was we, the people, and our ability to actually discern what was going on and not to be manipulated and fooled. Now, one of the things that happens when societies fail is they don't recognize manipulation because they've been dumbed down. Marxists always do that. They dumb down the population. Our population right now is a mere shadow of what it used to be. When Alexis de Tocqueville came here to study our penal system, he looked at our educational system also, and he was blown away by how much the kids knew. But not just the kids. He could find a mountain man. The guy knew how to read. The guy could tell you about the Declaration of Independence. You didn't find that in most places. And it was that kind of spirit that also led us to become the invention capital of the world. And so many things, we just blossomed because we had the right principles.
And speaking of the right principles, to your point, sir, the Constitution of our great country, the freedom of speech, the freedom of the press. Can you talk to us about the current media landscape when it comes to mainstream media, conservative media, social media, podcasting? What's your take on mainstream right now? Do you think it's just going to fall off the wayside because nobody's watching anymore? We're on to them, or what's your take on that?
Well, it's kind of sad in a way. The press was the only business protected by the Constitution. And it was because they're supposed to disseminate unbiased information to the people so that the people can make choices, because we're supposed to run the country on the will of the people. But when the press puts their thumb on the scale, or in this case, their foot on the scale, it really distorts the whole system. And that's basically what has happened. Now, the good thing is, Elon Musk bought Twitter, changed it to X, but at least there's some counterbalance now. And, you see people like Joe Rogan having as much influence as Oprah Winfrey. These are the kinds of things that are making the difference. And I think it will continue to be the case. And people are indicating by the numbers of people who are migrating to more logical types of platforms. When you have platforms advocating for men playing women's sports and abusing children, I think your average American is turned off by that. And I think we saw the results of that in the election.
Exactly. The woke ideology obviously didn't win. You go woke, you go broke, of course, as we know. President Trump recently mentioned that he will work to pardon J6ers. Your reaction?
Well, I think a lot of the J6ers should be pardoned. They were there. They were welcomed into the Capitol. The policeman opened the door and said, "Come on in." They weren't volitionally doing anything that they thought was wrong. Were there some troublemakers in the crowd? Absolutely. And I don't know what their origins were or what their purposes were, but those people obviously should face some consequences. But the vast majority of those people are perfectly innocent. And the mainstream media loves to leave out the portion where Donald Trump said, "Let's march over there peacefully, respectfully." They leave that part out and try to manipulate the narrative, and people who are not informed fall victim to that. But I'm very glad that he's going to do something for those people, because I really feel for them. Those people, so many of them, they felt that they had been wrong, that the system was wrong, and they wanted to bring attention to that so that someone would at least look at their grievances. And that's the way our system was designed. Obviously wasn't designed for violence.
Amen. What is your message right now to America overall? If someone's watching and they're still concerned, even though President Trump won, we're looking at a golden age, great things to happen, making America great again. But if people are still concerned about the left wing or some of the leadership, the world situation, I think we're going to get into some Bible scriptures here, to be honest, Dr. Ben Carson. So your thoughts?
Well, I think people need to recognize that even though the election went the way we wanted it to go, that's not the end. That's the beginning of the fight. You know, we're fighting against deeply entrenched control freaks, and their roots are very strong. And we're going to have to pray for wisdom. We're going to have to work extremely hard. And we're going to have to be the adults in the room. By that, I mean, it can't be tit for tat. Just because they did something, you don't have to do the same thing to them. You know, we are not enemies. That's my message. Take the first letter of each one of those words, W-A-N-E, we are not enemies. Wane. We've let hatred and division wax for a long time. It's time to let it wane now. And just stop allowing ourselves to be manipulated. Recognize that we are being played. We're being played by Marxists. One of the things that they do is they divide and conquer on the basis of race, age, income, gender, you know, you name it. And that's exactly what's been going on. And we've been manipulated into thinking that we're each other's enemies because we have a different yard sign. That is not the case whatsoever. And, you know, you look at how the community of America developed, you know, many, many years ago, isolated communities. In many cases, they could barely speak to each other because they came from different countries, but they understood something. And that was the common good, a phrase you see used a lot by our founders. Not what's good to this group versus this group, but what's good for all of us. And if it was harvest time and Mr. Johnson broke his leg, everybody else harvested his crops. They didn't care what his religion was. They didn't care what his politics were. They knew that he was their neighbor and he needed help. That's the kind of community that made America strong.
Amen. And also, you know, President Trump, of course, ran to be president of all of America, and now is getting that second opportunity. Great to see that happening coming up here shortly. Before we let you go, Dr. Ben Carson, first of all, thank you so much for spending the time with us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Are there any Bible scriptures that come to mind that are encouraging to you that you'd like to share with the people, but also during this time of life too, anything that is encouraging out of God's word?
Oh, there's so many, but you know, I think immediately of Proverbs 22:4, which says, by humility and the fear of the Lord are riches and honor and life. In other words, our prosperity comes when we follow God's word. What did God tell us? He said, love your neighbor. Not cancel your neighbor if they disagree with you. Not hate your neighbor, but love your neighbor and love God above all things. And if we do that, if you love your neighbor, you're not going to steal from him. You're not going to kill. You're not going to commit adultery with his spouse. You're not going to do any of those things. And that's why the great commandment that Jesus said, love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself.
Amen. And you can't go wrong with the great commandment in Deuteronomy and in Luke to love God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and your neighbor as yourself. Sir, thank you so much, Dr. Ben Carson, for spending the time with us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. What's next for you right now? I know you have various speaking engagements. You're someone that people want to interview a lot. So what's on tap for you, sir?
Well, we're working hard with the American Cornerstone Institute, which is growing very rapidly, and particularly our pediatric component, which is called Little Patriots, and our Executive Branch for America, which teaches people who are coming into government. We have a whole bunch of new ones coming into government now, how the government actually works, so you don't spend your first year like a deer in the headlights trying to figure out what's going on. And all of these programs are absolutely free of charge. And of course, we'll continue to assist the administration from behind the scenes.
Awesome. And what's the website that people can go to?
AmericanCornerstone.org.
Awesome. Dr. Ben Carson, thank you again for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, so as you know, again, we are 32 days from Inauguration Day. This is the road to 47. So that's a month and 1 day until that great day, January 20th, 2025. All right, so one of President Trump's 20 core promises to the American people is number 4 out of 20. We can highlight a lot of them. We have highlighted a lot of them here at the network, but today let's look at number 4. It's to make America the dominant energy producer in the world by far. A huge part of our economy, of course, stems from the energy sector. President Trump reminded us of part of his plan earlier this week.
Soon unleash American energy, and this will be done at levels not seen before, issuing quick approvals for pipelines, drilling, and other infrastructure. It'll be clean energy, and we'll bring in the price of electricity, and we're going to bring it down fast. We're also going to create clean coal. Clean coal is something that has really taken over. We have coal that will last for over 1,000 years. We have so much coal, and with a process, it becomes clean coal. It's very powerful energy, unlike wind. It's very, very powerful, and we're going to be doing a lot of clean coal for the people of West Virginia and others, Wyoming, so many states. We have great states.
And of course, we heard during a number of President Trump's great speeches during the campaign season, drill, baby, drill. So that'll be happening as well here in the country. Now, someone else that is really focused on the energy sector is Carla Sands of the America First Policy Institute, really focusing in on energy. Take it in. Joining us now is Carla Sands, the Vice Chair of Energy and Environment at the America First Policy Institute. Thank you so much for joining us once again, Carla.
Hey, it's great to be with you, Matthew.
So let's talk about the energy sector right now. We know the Department of Energy, or the Secretary of Energy, is Chris Wright. What is your reaction to President Trump's pick there?
I'm so excited because Chris Wright is so brilliant. He sits on the board of a really cutting-edge nuclear company, and his fracking, he's the second biggest fracker in the whole country. So this is unprecedented. And his company is called Liberty Energy. We can all enjoy that name, right? Because we're about to have a lot more liberty.
Exactly, and looking forward to that as well. And then when we look into the Environmental Protection Agency with Lee Zeldin, he also will be involved with permitting and that kind of stuff, right?
That's right. So the bureaucracy has they've really run like rogue throughout our country, and they're stopping things. In fact, they're stopping things from happening in progress in the United States. Elon Musk said there are so many regulations right now that we're almost ground to a halt in our development and our industry. And so he's saying we have to roll those back. It's essential. Lee Zeldin is going to be the permitting revolution guy.
Yeah,
we're going to get things done.
That's going to be awesome. And then why don't we talk about Doge then with Vivek and Elon? That's going to help the process as well, isn't it?
It is. So President Trump came out today and said, we're going to remove 10 regulations for every new regulation we put on. That was the driver of why business did so well under President Trump's first term. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act helped a lot, the tax cuts itself, but it was the permitting reform that really helped the regulations, removing regulations, that burden. If you're a small business, just to keep up with the federal regulations is really hard. We don't have armies of lawyers like big corporations. And so it's hard to keep up. He's going to change that. Elon Musk and Vivek are not just going to cut spending, those pork barrel projects that everybody's, now glomming back onto, all of the waste, all of the fraud that we know happened. Look at the pandemic with the billions of dollars that went out the door to people that didn't deserve it. Well, they're going to roll that back, but they're also going to cut regulations. So it's going to be extraordinary what happens after January 20th.
And speaking of January 20th and the Capitol, I mean, I know that Congress may be discussing an energy bill, but we talked prior to this interview about this energy bill. What's your take on it again?
Well, I know that your viewers are very engaged and they want to make America great again. So if they would tell their senators no new energy bills until President Trump is inaugurated. We do not want these multi tens and 20, 30, 40, $50 billion energy bills to be passed with so much wasteful energy. Let's get to best of the above energy. So President Trump will have a whole new agenda. Let's not pass any new energy bills until he's inaugurated.
So basically the cream of the crop of the energy sector, right?
Yes, it means government shouldn't be picking winners and losers. Let's find cheap and abundant energy so that people can heat their homes less expensively. That's the bottom line.
Exactly. And I'm sure a lot of people are looking forward to spending less on everything. Hopefully that'll all happen under Maganomics. It looks like it will. So we're looking forward to that. We're approaching 1 month until Inauguration Day. What are your thoughts right now?
I can't wait. I'm so excited to see what's happening. The whole world is excited because President Trump won this election because of the hard work of your viewers. We know everybody dug in deep. They gave, they volunteered, they door knocked. Some of them made phone calls. I was on the Trump campaign bus in Pennsylvania. I went and spoke at J.D. Vance and President Trump rallies to just encourage people, vote early. I think that they're excited about this, and let's give him 4 years. So we're going to have to work really hard in the midterm, just like we just did, to hold the House so that they don't impeach him and try to stop his agenda.
Carla Sands with the America First Policy Institute. Thank you so much for joining us. And can you tell the people that are watching how they can get involved with AFPI, or at least check it out and see what the Institute is up to?
Sure, Matthew. So all political views are my own, but I will say this. They can go look at America First Works, our C4. That's our ground team, our ground group that really is going to help win. AFPI, America First Policy Institute, they can go and check out our website. We're helping to drive the policy that makes their lives better, so they have more money in their pocket and they spend less on things like gas and groceries.
Carla Sands, thanks so much again for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Thanks, Matthew.
Once again, Carla Sands with the America First Policy Institute. As we're following some developing news here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, the appeals court has disqualified Fani Willis from prosecuting the Georgia Trump case. So again, an appeals court has disqualified Fani Willis from prosecuting the Georgia Trump case. So we'll have more details on RSBN online and of course here in the studio as well as we get more information. So that's just developing as we're following it here live at 11:42 this morning on the East Coast. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Let's go now from one great patriot to another. Tom Renz has been doing a lot of great things for people across this country. He's also really glad that President Trump will be returning to the White House. Joining us right now is attorney, analyst, and author Tom Renz. Thank you so much for joining us on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
It's a great honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Definitely. Can you tell us about your thoughts about the great win for MAGA on November 5th last month? President Trump as the 47th commander-in-chief for our country. What does that mean to you, and what does that mean to the country and the world?
It means hope. It means that we have a shot, right? So I've been saying for a while, our country is lost. We've lost our country. We've lost what our forefathers gave to us. Now we have an opportunity to re-earn it. Now, it means we really have to earn it back. Understand Donald Trump will be the best president we've ever had. He's going to do amazing things. We support him. We love him. But I think now more than ever, a lot of people are saying, listen, Trump's here. We've got it. We've got it. No. Now is the time that we, the people, need to triple down. We need to fight harder than ever. And we need to go. What it means is that we have hope. We can fight within an administration that actually cares about the law and cares about the people. And if we, the people, use this opportunity to fight for the next 4 years, we can start to regain our country and regain the freedoms that our kids are missing right now.
Exactly. It'll be great to see that. And President Trump talking about the golden age already has begun, which is awesome to see as we see for these next 4 years as well. Can you tell us about the website that you have as well? It's called forgodfamilycountry.org. Can you talk to us about that?
Right. So my work throughout COVID and since I've ever come onto the scene was really about ethical lawfare. Ethical lawfare means using the law in the courtrooms, the law politically, passing legislation, that sorts of thing. And then the education and activation of the public to facilitate success in those two areas, right? It's a three-part thing. ForGodFamilyCountry.org is my charity, right? It's of course, it's not mine. Any charity belongs to everybody, but it's a charity that we use to really focus on the educational aspects and then the justice aspects. Unfortunately, it's extremely expensive to litigate and to educate and to reach people and to do all these things. And so we use this to help do it. And, so for right now, for example, we do a lot of health freedom. We're MAHA 100%. And, my wife has stage 4 cancer. So cancer has become a big thing. I've seen how corrupt that industry is. I've seen what's going on there. So we're using this charity to help educate people about that corruption, not just in cancer, but in health across the board, and anywhere we find government corruption, which is pretty much everywhere. So we use that to help supplement my work as an attorney and as an advocate all over the place. And that's really what ForGodFamilyCountry.org is. It's a supplemental piece of that ethical lawfare puzzle that's necessary, because unfortunately, if you want to litigate, experts can cost $1,000 or more an hour. If you want to get the word out, well, the cost of media can be monumental. And yes, we do our own media, but you have to do more than that. So it's really the way that we help fund the freedom fight beyond just billing people for hours, because sometimes people who deserve justice can't always afford it.
And we join you in prayer for your wife's healing and for that cancer to be rid of her system in Jesus' name. I know that's not easy, I'm sure, sir. Can you talk to us a little bit about that, just the strength that it takes to overcome something like that?
Well, I will tell you, cancer is devastating to a family and to everybody in ways that I would never have imagined. I mean, it's been damaging to my marriage, to my family, to my children, to everything on levels that are profound. We were told that it was incurable, but we found a doctor who was willing to work towards curing it. And then once we got into the system, I found that cancer as an industry is almost worse than cancer as a disease. The system is designed very much to focus on, make as much money as possible over as long a period of time as possible, and then to let you die with dignity, unfortunately. My wife being stage 4, it's hard to find a doctor who will even approach it with curative intent. Typically, when you're stage 4, the system asks for you to be put into what's called a managed care protocol and then into a palliative care protocol. Managed care means we know you're going to die, we can't cure it, we're just going to keep you alive and milk you out of $100,000 plus treatments per treatment for the next 10, 15 years, and then we'll move you to palliative care and watch you die. What we did is, of course, that wasn't acceptable for me. I said, no, we're going to cure this. And so we've been fighting very hard. And I will tell you, for anybody that knows me, they know that I'm an advocate and I fight pretty hard for things. I've had to fight harder to ensure that my wife had a chance to be cured than I've probably had to fight on anything else. But here's the good news. We were told she had a less than 6% chance of survival at the beginning of this. As of a couple days ago, we just had a surgery and we removed the last known cancer in her body. So it looks like we're going to beat the unbeatable, but it isn't because we just blindly followed doctor's orders or alternative orders. We had to use every single thing in the book. We had to use it in more ways than I can count. And I can't wait to start sharing what we've learned with the world so that people who are fighting cancer can learn and understand what we did. Because you really can't get a full picture. There's a handful of people that I've met around the world that actually fully understand this. If you go to your oncologist, they're going to put you through a protocol that's designed frequently by what's called the NCCN handbook, and you're going to follow that. And if you're on the bell curve and you happen to have a cancer just like everybody else, it may work for you. But if you don't, you're going to die, and they don't care because they're still going to make their money off of it. And understand, my wife was not on the bell curve. My wife was a very unique out there type. So we've had to modify. We've used every alternative treatment known to man. We've used mainstream things to an extent. But at the end of the day, it's worked. it's working. And so, like I said, I'll be very eager to start sharing this going forward and helping people to understand how to navigate this complicated and horrible industry.
And I hear you, but I also know, and as you know, the America Frontline doctors, Dr. Simone Gold and others, great doctors around the country associated with that agency and others out there. So speaking of that, the creative director, John Strand, a J6 political prisoner, we just aired that interview here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Your thoughts about the pardoning of nonviolent offenders, and in some cases, those that were roped into doing certain things. It's a very kind of a gray area there, but your thoughts overall about J6 political prisoners being pardoned?
Well, it needs to happen. We believe in this country that it's better for 1,000 guilty men to walk free than one innocent man to suffer. And in this case, we now know that Liz Cheney probably belongs in jail. We know that there were a minimum of 26, FBI agents, whatever that means, involved. Was this entrapment? Was this designed? Just before the election, I dropped a big bomb on X, and we had several million views on it, about new evidence coming out that shows that AOC and Jamie Raskin and all these Democrats were involved with the groups, the Democrat leftist groups, who seem to be behind J6. Now, this is solid evidence, right? And this evidence indicated that this was part of a plan. I said several years ago, this looks to me like an inside plan. I think people like Mitch McConnell knew, some of the never-Trumpers on the Republican side. I also think that this was primarily a Democrat plan, and I think it was a whole never-Trump plan. We're now seeing that evidence start to come out. We know there are a lot of innocent people in jail. Now, I understand that there may be some guilty people there, but again, in this country, we believe it's better for 1,000 guilty men to go free than one innocent man to suffer. And so we need to facilitate that. I'm a strong advocate for pardoning these people. And I think that we need a full and transparent investigation into everything. And it's my prayer that we can get, and I've been working behind the scenes on this a little bit, I want to get to the point where we can go after the people. There needs to be justice. These people who were behind this need to be stripped of everything they've ever had or ever will, and that what they had should go to paying justice for the people who were abused and tortured by a system that was weaponized for political purposes.
100%. Tom, how in the world do you have this much courage to kind of just go out there and say what you just said? I mean, you've got a bunch of people who could be watching this broadcast, whether right wing, left wing, or upside down wing, but you don't seem to care.
Not one bit. I answer to God and, occasionally to my wife and to, the people that, I got a few people at work who I got to answer to, but, which is odd because I'm supposed to be the boss. No, listen, the truth will set you free, right? And I've told this on air a few times, this story. When I started fighting on the COVID fight a number of years ago, I sat in this very chair. Nothing's changed. I got a bigger platform. I'm more well known, but I sat in this very chair and I promised God that if he put this fight before me, I'd do my best to fight it his way and to the best of my ability. And at the end of the day, I've failed as a human being to fight, to be a good man on a million different things, but I've 100% held to that promise. I'm not a perfect man, but I've held to that promise. So to me, God's got my back, so to hell with it, right?
Well, there you go. Tom Renz, attorney, analyst, and author. Sir, thank you so much for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Where can people follow you? As the great Steve Bannon says, what are your coordinates?
TomRenz.com. We do the Tom Renz Show every day on X and on Rumble and on Locals and sometimes on Facebook when they let us. And we are of course at Renz Tom on Twitter. We're fairly suppressed there still, even though Musk is doing a great job. But we're all over the place. And TomRenz.com, please, if you can donate, if you can support us. We also have GiveSendGo.com/RenzLaw, GiveSendGo.com/RenzLaw. We generally work for free, so your support is what keeps us fighting.
Tom Renz, thank you again for joining us on RSBN.
Thank you.
And once again, we're following some breaking news here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. A Georgia court has disqualified Fani Willis from President Trump's so-called election interference case. So the court has disqualified Fani Willis from President Trump's so-called election interference case. We'll have more on Right Side Broadcasting Network, whether that's on Truth Social, on X, or our website, rsbnetwork.com. Let's go now to President Trump's hometown, none other than New York, New York. This time, let's go to the Bronx, where I met Lou Valentino when President Trump was holding a rally there some months back. Here's that interview. Right now is Lou Valentino from the Bronx right now. Sir, welcome to the show.
It's always good to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely. Your thoughts. November 5th, President Trump wins. Are you still riding that high right now, or how do you feel?
Riding the high all the way. It was a crazy journey, I would say. Watching everything that took place from 2022 when he announced all the way to when he won, but just the in-between was some of the craziest stuff. Just to give you an example, him going from city to city to places where many people were like, why is he campaigning in these areas? To the rally in New Jersey, record breaking, right? New Jersey now, according to, many sources, that could be a swing state at some point. You know what I mean? Like, so it's definitely, to obviously the assassination attempts and how that's just wild. So it was so many in between, so many things. Many people said he was down and out. It was the best political comeback ever. I just got to say. So yeah, I'm definitely, a lot of people are still on the high. Inauguration day can't get here soon enough. So watching where the world is going, are we, some people, specifically myself, have that question, like, are we even going to make it there? Because lame duck administration is making a lot of crazy decisions, look like they're trying to dogpile so many things so that way Trump can't have a successful 4 years. But yeah, that's the high is still there, but the nervousness is there as well because he's still not in office just yet. So road to inauguration is definitely something that a lot of people are looking forward to.
Exactly. 39 days out. Actually, now that this is airing, this is going to be less than 39 days out until President Trump is sworn into office there. Let's talk about New York City, Lou. I know for those of you watching, Lou and I met in the Bronx at a Trump rally, and it was just I was going to say, as the kids say, but I'm not that old to say that, but it was fire. It was definitely fire in the Bronx. But So, Lou, tell me though, the fact of law and order in that city, though, are you seeing any changes at all with Eric Adams as the mayor, or are you just waiting for President Trump to get back in there and the NYPD to follow suit?
Yeah, so we're seeing actually, like I would say, extreme changes with Mayor Adams. Definitely a change of tune, right? This is a guy that was riding the Democrat high of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris administration. He was doing, it looked like he was doing everything he was told to do. And one day he snapped. One day he had a press conference and he said, the city can't take this anymore. The city's going broke. We're welcoming too many people. This asylum seeking system is broken, right? So when he began to speak out and say, this is not good for the city, when he began to say that, yes, American citizens that live in New York City, what you're seeing with your eyes is the truth. It's a real crisis going on. As soon as he said that, then you saw his world kind of start to fall apart. You saw his team start to be investigated. You saw the FBI begin to raid some of his houses, or it just, you saw him go down. And he kind of, I don't know. I saw Trump, during the Lee Smith, it was a dinner that they were having in New York City. Even Letitia James was there, but he began to speak about, Trump spoke about Mayor Adams in a very high regard. He seems to be poking jokes at him, but he basically said, when you start to leave the left, you start to get out of that cultish behavior where they're denying reality in order to win an election, you start to get the Mayor Adams treatment. You start to get the Donald Trump treatment. So Mayor Adams has legitimately turned around. He wants to work with Tom Homan, Trump's new border czar. So that's something that I'm like, wow, I'm very, very much looking forward to this. This is kind of crazy, if I'm being honest, because Mayor Adams, that was not his tune at the beginning, but Now that's his tune. He's singing that. He's singing the song now. So
Exactly,
we'll see.
exactly. And meeting with Tom Homan just recently there in the Big Apple. And speaking of the Big Apple, New York City, the liberals that you know out there, and let's just be real, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever. The point is, are you seeing people realize this liberal way of thinking and living, it just isn't working anymore? Do you see any friends that are kind of like, maybe I should go for Trump too?
Yeah, there was a lot of people in New York City. So when you look at I was looking at the numbers, because at first you get disappointed that Trump loses New York, the state, obviously because of New York City. And I think the margin was 850 to 900,000. I think in 2020 it was a lot bigger, and even in 2016 it was way bigger. So it looks like the margin did close by a lot. But when you look at the Bronx and you look at certain areas, he improved by 20%. Areas that he had lost in 2016 and 2020 by more than 90%. These are the areas that he has now thrived with. A lot of people that many folks weren't expecting. So 55% of Latino men, 55% of his majority of Latino men voted for Donald J. Trump. That's insane. Because if all you do is watch the mainstream media, then that number will throw you off because you don't understand what was going on. So I told you before, I said those conversations in the barbershop, they're real. Men are literally sticking with Trump, and specifically with black men in New York City and, of course, Hispanic men in New York City. So the numbers were off the roof in New York City. Compare it to the last two elections, 2016 and 2020.
And Lou, all the people had to do that are on the left of the mainstream media is watch Right Side Broadcasting Network when I interviewed you. But not only that, of course, you saw the amount of people that were there from all walks of life in the Bronx. Just remember that excitement from that day. All those people out there, weren't the vibes awesome?
A day I will never forget. I always tell people this. I said, I believe that a lot of people throughout this election cycle were on the wrong side of history. And I know that 20 years from now, 30 years from now, when many of them are in their 60s, 70s, and I'm in my 50s and I got grandchildren, I know they're going to be asking me, Dad, how cool was Trump back in the day? And a lot of people are going to miss out on the excitement of their grandchildren. So, I'm so happy that I was a part of it because I know what I was a part of. I felt it during that moment, during those times, that in the future I'll be able to say that I was a part of it. So it definitely was life-changing experience. It was crazy, man. Something that I will never forget. I'm still on the high about the Bronx. By the way, him coming to the Bronx, that changed me forever. I couldn't believe he did that, but he did.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it was great to be there, be a part of it. Having family, my dad and mom born in New York City, Manhattan, and Brooklyn. So really wonderful to be there. And it was great to interview you there that day. Let's, on a final topic here, talk about the Daniel Penny case being set free. Your thoughts about that there in New York City?
So a very huge moment, I believe another moment that changes, New York for the time being, because this decision, when you look at what happened on a train, it's something that has happened regularly. I mean, there's literally a train video looking at me right now on my screen of the craziest thing happening. So there's always, even liberals can attest to this, specifically liberals in New York City, because there's more of them than conservatives, that they have to take the train. They know what it's like to get in there, and they know how dangerous it gets, specifically on certain stops. But in this case, like downtown, midtown, the most secure, the most guarded areas are the ones that are the most dangerous right now. Specifically, when you have a whole bunch of people coming in, and then you still have a homeless crisis, you have an opioid epidemic, you have all these bad things happening. So Daniel Penny, in my opinion, I would have did the same thing. Every man that I know would have did the same thing. Because when you read the transcripts and you hear about Jordan Neely bugging out on a train, saying that he's going to take people's lives, getting physical and doing all these big things, man, I got to step in. We got people on the train, they're scared. Most of them literally look like New York City, all walks of life on that train. You're talking like that, you're talking crazy. So that decision was big, because I'm not going to lie, I was one of those people that said, a jury, New York City, we saw what happened with Trump. And then to see that they were deadlocked, and then to see that they extended it to Monday, and that the judge was even trying to corrupt it in a certain way. Maybe we can't get him on a manslaughter, but we could probably get him on this. And still, the jury did not. They just found him not guilty, which is absolutely, it's changing, and that does give me some hope that New York City, maybe it's finding its way, or at least trying to get away from the super far left progressive laws that have literally terrorized this country, terrorized a whole bunch of people on the train. So I think it's a good sign, Matt. I don't know, but that was big, man. Definitely was not expecting that to happen.
Definitely. Amen, Lou Valentino, right there in the Bronx. Sir, thank you for your inspiring words right there. You got me all fired up right now, man. Make New York great again.
Yes. I believe that New York could be great again. I do. Inauguration, Trump, that's going to be historic. So I just want to tell the people out there, enjoy it. Enjoy it while you have it. Enjoy this country. Enjoy crypto. Enjoy the markets. Enjoy everything that's about to go down, because things are about to take off like never before. And I feel it and I see it now. And that inauguration is going to be an emotional day for a lot of people, but the work is just about to begin.
And that golden age is going to follow. In Jesus' name, amen, right?
Amen, brother. Amen.
All right, Lou Valentino, sir, thank you again for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely. All right, so let's go from one New Yorker to another. Sal Greco is a former NYPD veteran police officer. He was with the New York Police Department for 14 years. He is fired up. He's ready to see President Trump in office. He also wants to see New York be made great again, but firstly by law and order and just cleaning up the corruption in the city. This now is NYPD veteran with 14 years on the force, Sal Greco. Thanks so much for joining us, Sal.
My honor to be here.
It's great to have you. Can you tell us your thoughts before we get right into New York City on the huge win by President Trump on November 5th? Your thoughts, sir?
Oh, that was great. I mean, I was actually at the Palm Beach Convention Center when it all was coming down the pike with all the states that we were winning. I mean, the atmosphere was great. It was the place to be. And after 4 years of treachery that not only me personally have gone through, but millions of Americans, it was like we all gasped the sigh of relief that our guy got back in there. And I really believe here that I think the tides are turning, and I think we're going to have a little bit of normalcy come back and accountability, which is what was desperately needed in this country, especially in the last 4 years after the treacherous actions of this administration that's currently in office.
100%. So let's dive in now to the 5 boroughs of the largest city in America and probably the most famous name of a city in most of the world, New York City. Of course, you were an officer there for the NYPD for 14 years. You have a lot of opinions as well about the mayor of the city there, Eric Adams. He's in the news a lot. President Trump spoke about him the other day at a Trump press conference. Before we get into all of that, let's talk about the law and order that's needed in NYC. What's it like now compared to what it was like when you were an officer there? I know that might be a tough answer to have, but your thoughts?
So the crime numbers back then, even though they've always been skewed per se, they were lower. Why? Because it was a different time, different people were in office, state legislation, city council. But as time went on, you could see that New York City took a turn to the left per se, completely left, and things have spiraled out of control. As you can tell, the progressive, we'll say, wing of city council has crazy draconian measures and legislation they pass. We have a state assembly and a state senate that's just as crazy. You have a governor that, I don't know, I think she's too busy trying to raise money for her non-existent upcoming campaign again. She's doing fundraisers out of town. So all of this factored in at a time when I was there where there was still law and order. Because as Bill de Blasio came in and started wrecking the place, you were still, first couple of years of him being in office, you were still living off the good years of Ray Kelly as a police commissioner and Mike Bloomberg as the mayor. As you know, we had in New York 20 years of, we'll say, good times between Rudy Giuliani and Mike Bloomberg as far as public safety goes. Now, we fast forward to this. And I was just there. I was there just the other day. As I was telling you, I'm a board member of the Italian American Civil Rights League, and we had our Christmas, or we have the Christmas party / award annual event we had, and it was in Little Italy. And that area still, kind of looks the same. But outside of that, let me tell you, I took a cab around town. I see homeless people on the corners. I see a bunch of them. I see like Canal Street. So on Canal Street, we had the problem of illegal vendors. That problem probably like multiplied. I know they like to show you these little one day, oh, we're going to go over there and arrest everybody. And then they come right back out 5 minutes later and they multiply.
I hear you. And obviously, it's been in the news this past week in regards to the pardon for Eric Adams. President Trump says Adams was targeted by the government because of his stance on illegal migrants, and that he would consider a pardon for Mayor Adams. Now, he also got into some more details. He said he didn't know every single detail of all of the investigation and that kind of thing. So that was what President Trump said at the press conference. Let's move on, though. Who would you like to see run the city of New York?
I got to be honest. I'm not because I'm his friend, but Curtis Sliwa, who's been a big name in the city and ran for mayor 4 years ago. I mean, I know he lost because the city's, I think, 7-3 or 7-2 or 8-2, Democrat to Republican and registered voters. But Curtis Sliwa, he knows all the issues. He knows everything that's going on in the city as far as things that are happening where you have these corrupt entities trying to come in there and lobby and all this wine, dine, and pocket lining they're doing with the politicians. Here comes a guy who's not corrupt, who won't take money, and has never been in government. And that's the kind of guy you need to be the mayor of New York City, which is, as Rudy Giuliani stated, and he states it all the time, the default position of New York City is corrupt. That is the default position. It's already corrupt. So what happens? Curtis Sliwa comes in. He's a straight-laced guy. Not going to take any money. That's the guy you want voted in. I'm hearing, so they want to go and say Brad Lander, who's the comptroller, and there's all kinds of issues in New York City when it comes to his office. You have Andrew Cuomo, the former governor. Weren't we just, victimized by this guy, whether it was by the COVID nursing home scandal? He had other scandals. I don't know if he was touching or kissing women, whatever's going on there. He's got plenty of enemies. Do we want to revisit this? Why do we keep going to the old playbook when it comes to who you want to vote for? Curtis is a fresh face. He's not a politician, kind of like Trump running for president. I think he'd be the perfect fit. He knows the city well. I believe he's about 69 or 70 years old. He's a perfect age to be a mayor. People might laugh at it, but I guarantee you won't be taking money like Eric Adams or taking kickbacks or hiring cronies to run around and do all this crazy stuff. And then everybody is getting in trouble and we're looking at, it's political. Yeah, okay. Stealing money now is political, Matt. I didn't know. That's a new thing to me now.
Right. Tell us about your great friendship with the great Roger Stone as well. Does that have anything to do with your past at the NYPD? What's the whole story right there, if you can sum it up into a nutshell?
The easiest way to say it is they didn't like that I was friends with Roger. They have a provision in their own NYPD patrol guide or the regulations that state you cannot wrongfully or knowingly associate with someone who is reasonably believed to engage in or likely to have engaged in criminal activity. That is a very broad brush. But they said that this was Roger. They also said that I was somehow involved with January 6th and all this other crazy stuff. Meanwhile, they investigated me. They did all kinds of illegal stuff, illegal subpoenas. They ordered me not to see a friend of mine, even though they own a cafe that it's a legit business and there's no wrongdoing in there. They did a lot of crazy things. They made me into what I am today, technically, but they ultimately fired me for this.
No, I hear everything you're saying. I see the passion. I see the content, the insight, the desire to clean up corruption. I get that. So for you, though, why is this firing you up so much? I mean, should you have been an investigative journalist instead of a cop? You know what I mean? Like, what is it that really has you fired up to talk like you're talking right now?
I say, I should have still been a cop, where it's two different things, investigative journalists and police. Investigative journalists find things out, but you know what a cop does? He does that, and he's got to put the handcuffs and actually show up to the house, possibly raid the house. That was my thing. I love doing that. I was locked. I mean, look at the awards. I got a ton of awards here. You know, I was never afraid to do that. What fires me up is these guys come in and they're basically taking advantage of every single New York City taxpayer, whether they're a Democrat or a Republican. That should worry people, because in reality, where's your money going in New York City? All these politicians I'm speaking of today, they're all beholden to you, the voter and the taxpayer. Don't let them think that it's the other way around, because they clearly, Matthew, it's ongoing. They're just ripping off taxpayers every single day and laughing in everyone's face. And then election time, here they come again, and then they do the race baiting and all that other stuff. Meanwhile, they're the real criminals. They are the criminals, Matthew. It's not right. And I have a problem with this, and it needs to be rooted out. Corruption cannot, if it continues to fester, New York City will never be the shiny city on a hill ever again.
Sal Greco, the former NYPD officer with 14 years on the force. Sal, thank you for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
My honor, Matthew. Thank you.
All right, so let's go from the most populous city and region of the United States all the way out to Paris, France, where President Trump was recently visiting the Notre Dame Cathedral. Of course, the cathedral had was heavily damaged by that fire, closed for the past 5 years. It reopened, of course, after a lot of rehab, so President Trump goes there. I spoke with Father Frank Pavone as well to get his take on the trip and also the next Trump presidency. Now is Father Frank Pavone. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
It's always a pleasure. Thanks, Matthew.
It's great to see you here again on the network. I know that you have a show with us, and also over the years, I mean, what has that been like for you to be able to share truth with the American people?
Oh, it is a joy. It's one of the biggest joys of my life. I do a lot of broadcasting, always have done. And when I first discovered Right Side Broadcasting, right at the very beginning of its journey, covering the Trump rallies, I said, these folks we are cut from the same cloth, and you know, so our friendship began and has grown stronger. But to be able to bear witness to truth using modern technology, you know, I often think, what would St. Paul do? He'd be jumping up and down. You know, he has had such a heart to reach the world, you know, reach everybody. Can you imagine how he would have reacted if he saw today's technology? So we who do have it, well, as the Lord said, to whom much is given, much will be expected. We've got to use it to the full.
Exactly. And so what's your take right now on the direction of the country?
It is fabulous. You know, we are at a time of tremendous hope. You know, election day, I was, as you were, you know, of course, we were doing a lot of broadcasting, and people were saying, oh, I am so nervous. I'm so nervous. And, you know, in a sense, I took that as, okay, good. You got the message that we tried to convey during the election season, that this was, in fact, the most important election in our history, that we were, in fact, in danger of losing our country. And so what's the natural result of that is that you would feel nervous. But now people have breathed a massive sigh of relief, and there's a new sense of hope. As I continue to travel around the country on my mission, you know, we have seen just people are just ready to get to work. It's not a victory that, you know, I was recently with Charlie Kirk, and we were discussing the fact that, you know, it's sort of like, yeah, we all did things to make this happen, and thank God for everybody who stepped up to the plate. But, you know, it's also a sense of God's intervention, because it's sort of like, you know, you can't take credit for, you know, an act of God in nature. Oh, I did that hurricane. This election was such a combination of incredibly impossible things, statistically impossible things that all happened. You know, especially, of course, the saving of President Trump from those assassination attempts. It's like, how did all of this happen? What were the odds, you know, with all the lawfare that went against him? And everybody that's in our circles, your circles and mine, the RSBN family, the America First movement, we all knew that these attacks on President Trump, just like he always reminds us, are actually attacks on us. So now the mood is one of, oh my Lord, thank you. This is awesome how you have saved and rescued us. And we look at it as an opportunity, but not a guarantee. We are grateful, but we're not satisfied. We know now that such an important mandate has been given to all of us, not just to President Trump, but to all of us, to take the country back and to make sure that this victory sticks. Because the other side, even though they're still rather disoriented and they're sort of shell shocked, I think. Nevertheless, they'll come to terms with whatever they have to come to terms with, and they'll regroup and they'll try to keep attacking in various ways. So we got to be vigilant. I think it's a mood of great optimism and relief, together with a sense of, okay, it's time for vigilance and hard work.
Exactly. I mean, getting the job done or finishing the job in President Trump's case. I mean, did so many great things in that first administration. Here comes round two with a lot of awareness and knowledge going into this, ready to go with a great cabinet behind him. And then also, when we talk about President Trump and the peace through strength that he always emits, right? How about even just the trip to France the other weekend to see the beautiful Notre Dame Cathedral after it was closed for 5 years? What kind of message was that, sir, that you believe that was spoken to the world on a political front and on a religious front?
Yes, a couple of things. Of course, Notre Dame, it's very important to Catholics. It's a great symbolic church, and the very existence of church buildings is important, even though we know God is spirit and, we worship him wherever we are. But nevertheless, God took on flesh. And so the importance of these symbolic churches is very real to people, and they are signs of unity. We all profess the same faith in Jesus Christ throughout the world. So though him going there, it shows he values the Catholic community. I mean, we feel that, who are Catholic, and he loves the Catholic Church. And of course, France. There's a connection there with our own history here in America. France was very, very helpful at the time of the founding of our country. Very, very helpful to our founding fathers, and we appreciate that. So there is that special relationship when it comes to France, both with the Catholic Church and with the American experiment in self-government. But I think that what I was feeling the most when I saw him go there for that reopening, that rededication of this beautiful church, is that he is a president who has done more for religious freedom than any other president. And for his first international trip after being reelected to be to a church dedication is very significant, because he does put religious freedom as a priority. And, there were a lot of firsts for him. He was the first one under then Secretary Mike Pompeo to pull together an international seminar on religious freedom that was held at the United Nations, no less. And he put measures in place. They didn't always get headlines, but he put measures in place by executive action that actually trained people working in the government and deployed overseas, trained them in how to be alert to violations of religious freedom, so that they could sound the right alarms, and make it clear in other countries that the United States is not going to tolerate discrimination against religious faith. I know that as a leader of a ministry myself, we were often invited during the first Trump administration to get onto conference calls with various agency leaders and members of the administration to reassure us that we would not have to hide our faith if we wanted, for example, to enter into government contracts or do our work in any way or seek government funding. We would not in any way have to hide our faith, and we would not be treated differently than non-faith groups in getting the advantages of funding that might be available for certain charitable works. This was very consoling, and this was a stark difference from the Obama administration that had preceded him. They actually persecuted us and tried to make us violate our faith through different mandates that we resisted. We had to resist them all the way up to the Supreme Court. Priests for Life and I personally were at the plaintiffs at the Supreme Court. And President Trump rescued us from all that. And he said, you never have to violate your faith in order to follow the laws in this great United States of America.
And to your point, the great law, the Constitution, the First Amendment, thank God for the First Amendment, for freedom of speech, freedom of the press, right? Freedom of religion and on. I mean, that's why it's the First Amendment, right? You need to have all that to have the rest. So, Father Frank Pavone, thank you again so much for joining us. Are you going to be headed to the inauguration? I know you'll at least watch it if you're not.
I'll be there. And there's going to be some beautiful prayer events just preceding it, of course. Looking forward to a great celebration.
It's going to be awesome. Only, it feels like a few days away, but January 20th is around the corner. Sir, thank you so much. And so is Christmas, of course, as well, and Hanukkah. So thank you again, sir.
Thank you, Matthew. God bless.
You too. And now to our Throwback Thursday segment here on the road to 47. So let's go back to December of 2022. My wife and I attended AmFest in Phoenix, Arizona. We had a great experience there, of course. Now, she was my girlfriend at the time. Well, this photo is about 20 minutes after I proposed to her in Sedona, Arizona, after a sunrise hike. An absolutely gorgeous part of the world, of course, spent with an absolutely gorgeous person. A great memory there in Arizona. And speaking of the great state of Arizona, the Grand Canyon State, AmFest starts up today. This is day 1 of 4. We'll have all of that coverage live right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. A number of great speakers today through Sunday, including the keynote speech from President Trump on Sunday. Bobby McNeely will be with me here in studio. We'll bring you that live coverage on Sunday. So we will be live a bit later today as well. We'll get to some more of those details in just a second. We want to thank you so much for watching The Road to 47, Episode 6. It's been going pretty good. We've got a few more to go. We'll give you some more information on that as well, as we are 32 days until Inauguration Day. This Road to 47 broadcast brought to you by MyPillow, as you've seen a few times pop up throughout the show. All you have to do is go to mypillow.com, use that promo code RSBN for some great discounts on some awesome products. There's only, 6 days until Christmas? So free shipping with using the promo code RSBN on a number of awesome products with mypillow.com. If you'd like to donate to Right Side Broadcasting Network, you can do so by texting RSBN to 801-801. So it's simply RSBN in the message part, and then 801-801 to the number. So if you do that, if you'd like to donate, that'd be greatly appreciated. If you can't, we totally understand, as we're awaiting Maganomics to return to America. All right, so you can stay with RSBN on all of our platforms as we follow America First news. Specifically, speaking of news, breaking today, a Georgia court has disqualified Fani Willis from President Trump's so-called election interference case in Georgia. Also breaking, the Federal Aviation Administration. So the FAA has banned drone flights in much of New Jersey. That's been quite the story over the past couple of weeks. President Trump, of course, saying on Monday during a press conference in Palm Beach that the drones are from the government. He said it, so we don't know a lot of more details, but we're following it. We're also following the latest on that spending bill in Congress. How wild was that? I know it failed, but what's up next? We'll see. So that is definitely a story that's happening. Again, you can get all the latest information at rsbnetwork.com, also on Truth Social at RSBN. You can also get it at X on that great site there at RSB Network. And as you see there, if you go to our website /newsletter, you'll get all of the information you need for live events and also special offers. Also, programming note, our next Road to 47 show will be on January 9th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Also, our RSBN Economic Report will follow that show as well on January 9th. Also, once again tonight, there are a lot of programming notes here for you. At 6:45 Eastern, AmFest 2024 from Phoenix, Arizona. We will have all of that live coverage right here at Right Side starting at 6:45 Eastern Time. So for all of us at Right Side Broadcasting Network, Matthew Alvarez, thank you so much for joining us on this show. Next up is the RSBN Economic Report on a different link. Once again, thank you so much for streaming with us. And Matthew Alvarez, we'll see you in a bit.
from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving us with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss. I'm going to make it your gain. For the first time ever, you get standard classic MyPillows for wholesale prices, only $14.88. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, I'm going to offer my entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Upgrade to a queen size MyPillow for just $18.88. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on the screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever on TV, including my standard size MyPillow, only $14.88. They've never been offered this low before. We have limited quantities at this price, so limit's going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.